Well, welcome back everyone to NRL Fantasy Analysis. We're going to be going through the first four games of the round, and wow, there was plenty happening this week. I'm sure everyone knows about it by now. All the injuries, all the suspensions. If you're sitting there with no trades, let's hope you've got like sort of 18 or 19 players at least playing, or decent players that if you lose 4 or 5 this week, you can at least get sort of 15 to 17 on the park. I know my team's in a bit of disarray, especially starting with this game and what happened to Corey Harawira-Naera. Looks like he'll be rubbed out for the rest of the season with that hit on Jerome Hughes, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with Jerome also. But if you're looking at up the top here with Nicho Hynes, he actually managed to play almost a full game, and the best thing about that for him was the fact that Finucane went down in the first minute, and that allowed him to get the extra minutes, and otherwise he would not have got that. But we did also see Pap only get a small amount of minutes, so I'm not sure if that played any part or any role in Nicho playing some extra minutes as well. But yeah, that was that with Nicho with 57 there. So we know what he's been like when he's got the full 80 minutes. Sorry, or close to it. When they've been playing well, and the 4 goals, just no real negatives for him in this game was awesome. And if I've mentioned Cammy Munster as a nice solid option over Hughes in this last few rounds, thinking Hughes would get rested anyway. I didn't think he'd get knocked out and probably miss a few games. But yeah, Cammy Munster just been really, really strong over this last period especially. And, that average is now up at 58.6 with another 60 points to his name, and a pretty solid price, to be fair. You're getting him at like a 55 or so average at 737k. So he's obviously scoring better than that, and I think he'll play the majority of the last bunch of games, especially if Hughes is going to be out. So he's a really cool option, especially if you picked him up this week. Hudson Young with 64 up there if you own him. Simonson with 3 tries there. So obviously had a pretty solid game on his return. If you're still owning him, he's probably a really interesting one and someone who's really helpful for your squad over the next bunch of weeks, especially with all the players out, as I mentioned before. So we got that there. We got Brandon Smith, so back with a try. Did have 5 missed tackles, but a really solid game for him with 132 run meters, a try, 55 points, and 69 minutes. So if you can see that continuing on, then he's a great guy to have in your squad over this last bunch of weeks. But again, you're not going to trade any actual players out compared to those non-players anyway. So there's not too much to talk about on that sense. Rapana did really well. If you're still owning him, he's been great, especially over this last section here with after he's come back from that injury and moved to the fullback position, he's been really good. So yeah, 648k is really got up there, that's for sure. But looking down a bit further, Harry Graham with still 52 minutes. So again, I just don't think he's as good an option as someone like Damien Cook. I mentioned Lussick, but he happened to not get as many minutes as we would have thought, and they did get smashed. So I can see that. I can see Lussick improving, which we'll talk about as we come along onto that game. But yeah, we head along down there, and Hughes obviously was having a quieter game. No attacking stats, very minimal run meters, which was weird for him at 51. Obviously, plenty of kicking, but yeah, no attacking stats, no line breaks, tackle breaks that he's used to, or the try assist. So a 32 for him before he got injured, and it looks like he might be out for a few weeks. So keep an eye out on an NRL physio or NRL.com or whatever's going to give us that news on Hughes. But that would be really painful if he happens to miss those last few weeks with, especially at his price point. He's obviously lost 50k this week, but 746, he was up over 800k. And if you picked him up the last couple of weeks, you've been hurt a little bit because he got 40 odd last week and then 32 this week. Not ideal. If he's sitting there with Smith Shields, I think he's a solid one that you can actually play the next couple of weeks to make sure you get 17 players. Oldham with a lighter one. Corey Harawira-Naera, looks like he'll be rubbed out for the rest of the year. I'd imagine at least a 3-week suspension, and he's just been a bit of a shocker, unfortunately. 622k now if you're looking to trade him out. I personally have 1 trade left, and I'll work out who's actually got a chance of playing. I've got Crichton Lolo, who should be able to come back, which will be helpful. But other than that, CHN might be the man to go for maybe a Ponga, but we'll work that out. And yeah, Pap's going to get really cheap, guys. 466k now after another 72k drop, getting limited minutes on the park, and Finucane there with a 0 in his 1 minute. So that's that first game, guys. I mentioned that Storm would win. I thought it would be like a 30 odd to 12, and it was a bit closer than first thought. But Raiders kind of put up a bit of a fight in that one. Dragons and the Panthers, and a solid game, really. Like for the Dragons to come back and get a few tries there was all right for him. But Panthers too good with Cleary there. He's incredible. Again, first game back had the so not the jitters, but A little bit rusty in his first game back, but like he literally had at one point had no try assists, no tackle breaks, no offloads, and he was a point a minute. He was 60 in 60 minutes like without any attacking stats. I was like, bloke's a freak. We already knew that, obviously, to get to 1.2 mil, but if you're looking to grab him, if you have a couple of trades left, get him in. Like he's an automatic captaincy even upon his return. He's only going to get better from there. So he was awesome there with 74. If you hold on to him, it was very much worth it. You get him for the last bunch of rounds. Edwards was 65 with a couple of tries. Good stuff for him. Ravalawa, not someone that many people have. Matty Burton, a try and 2 try assists, was awesome again out in the centres, just doing everything. Another 50k in price rises, so he's been good. Just keep hold of him for the rest of the year. Isaiah Yeo didn't have to do too much, but always plays really solid with Cleary around. He's that great link between him and the halves. He was great. Mitch Kenny was solid as well if you own him. I imagine a lot of you would have traded him out after he made a fair bit of cash. Let me know in the comments if you ended up still sticking with Kenny after bringing him in earlier. DeBellin with 47 points out. A few people asked me DeBellin, Victor Radley, or Josh Curran. I hope he went with Curran. Radley was obviously okay, but looks like he might be out as well. DeBellin, 47, just 49 tackles was awesome, but not really running the ball and no attacking stats just stopped him from getting a really good one there. Bird with 42 and a try. Just one of those games where they're getting beat pretty hard. To take 42 as a centre, we'll go with that. That's for sure. Luai's going to be super cheap next year. It's incredible how low he's gotten to at 390. Wow. To think that he was up there as a keeper early in the year, a few people were picking him up. That's really interesting how he's that low now. Man, I love watching Lomax play. Does anyone else feel the same way? He's so talented. That flick pass he had for Ravalawa's try was incredible. And he's great in the air. He kicks great goals. Really solid in defense side. I think he's awesome, and I can't wait for him to be super cheap at the start of next year so we can pick him up as a really underpriced keeper in the centres because he's awesome. And hopefully the Dragons are you'd imagine they're a little bit better next year, possibly. I suppose we didn't think they were going to be very good this year, and they turned out to be pretty solid. But a brand new year after all the issues this year, I think he'll be really cool. But let's slide along. Anyone else to talk about? Not really. Stephen Crichton. Again, one of those keepers that a lot of people were talking about at the start of the year that he just never has got there. He's had a few decent games here and there, but not enough to be a keeper and think of that into next year as well. I just don't think he's going to be the guy that you want in your centres or wing fullback. Someone you always want in your team, 2 blokes you always want in your team is James Tedesco and Payne Haas. Both 2 of the best in their positions. Obviously, Payne's incredible there with 69. I had him as captain, which was good. But picked up a try, a line break, and almost scored twice in a matter of like 3 plays. So he was awesome, and didn't even have to play super big minutes this game to do what he needed. So only 4 tackle breaks, and they were all in that first couple of plays of the game. So he was great. Tedesco is in absolutely everything. We thought that would happen with Roosters still playing well enough to provide a lot of the opportunities for him to get the tackle breaks and stuff. They're getting enough go forward, enough quick play the balls for him to get out and run. And obviously, he's going to use hands on the ball as much as possible, which gets those meters gains and the tackle breaks up. And he's got 54 in those 2 categories alone. So he's been great. 57 average. If you picked him up in the last month or so, like I did, luckily enough, he's been awesome. He's only had 1 stretch, I think a month in the middle of the year there. Where he scored fairly low, but that's very normal for wing fullbacks, and that's what we worry about in terms of picking them as captaincy options, is just getting on them when they're really flying. Like I guess Trbojevic been flying all year, but Teddy's had a bit of a run now where you can actually be confident, especially against a lesser team like the Broncos, that he could be a great captaincy option. But at 762k, he's been great. Them 2 there, and then anyone else to talk about? Dale Copley had a good game on the wing. In terms of fantasy. Flegler's in there if you're still owning him, but I don't think many would. Sam Reynolds has been really, really cool. 42 tackles for his 2 misses and a try assist there, 59 minutes, so 47 points if you have him. He's actually made a fair bit of cash. Obviously, it doesn't really make much of a difference at this stage of the year that he's finally going well, but I think the majority of us are actually playing him for now. So he's been great. Jordan Riki, I think he's been getting better and better. I think he's going to be really, really, really solid next year. Just think he'll be a bit too expensive to start with, unfortunately. Albert Kelly, if you hold on to him this long, you get a nice price bump and obviously a solid score there with 5 missed tackles, the only real issue there. The rest of it, he's across the board, runs up those stats, 21 tackles, 114 run meters, 193 from the kick. So he's been good. Joe Minor with the lower game for him, but 25 tackles for no misses is awesome. If you can get that from a center and not even have any attacking stats and still get 40, you're happy days on that front. Who else to talk about? Oh, Tyson Gamble. So it looks like he's going to be out for an extended period as well with the suspension, it looks like, from his tackle. I don't know enough about it. I did see it, but I was like, I didn't want to think about it at the time, if I'm being honest. Got 6 missed tackles for him, obviously lowered his scoring, and a couple of penalties with obviously that high shot. So him, not his best game, obviously a couple of games in a row where he hasn't done as well, and he finally lost money at 5K. So he could be one that you look to move on depending on how many weeks. I'm not exactly sure at this point, but that's that. And then Radley with a lower game as well, just had a bit of a shocker. Obviously 18 in negatives, no attacking stats, just a bit of a tough one. If you went for Radley over Curran, they had them about a 50, 55, 45 kind of percentage split as to who to pick. And Radley, anytime he'd played big minutes, he's got over 50, and this time, of course, he did not. So, yeah, unfortunate to those who brought him in. I suppose anyone else you'd have on there would be like a TC Rabadi if you had to play him. A little bit annoying. You saw Milford come on for 23 minutes, but yeah, didn't impact the game too much. And last one for this video, guys, we'll go for the Bunnies and the Titans, and just another absolute masterclass from the Bunnies. Against a Titan side that was pretty much full strength. You're not playing Fogs, but that's their choice at this stage. But Latrell with 92, Cody Walker with 88. You can pretty much guarantee that every time the Bunnies play well, that these two guys are going to be at the top of the scoring. And for Walker, it's been someone who hasn't had an incredible year in terms of fantasy scoring. Like, I think he's 31 try assists for the year. I think 20 in the last 11 games, which is incredible. Almost 2 a game there. And yeah, he's gone on a bit of a run. He was sitting around 45 average, and now he's up to 50.6. So if you jumped on in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, then you've done really well with Walker. If you picked him up through that bye period where it was him or Reynolds or a couple of those types of options, that was good. But Latrell, if you went for Latrell over Teddy, or if you've got both of them, you're really enjoying yourself right now. 92 for Latrell, 78 for Teddy. 10 tackle breaks, 180 meters, tries, try savers, 3 line breaks. He's just a freak. He's so good. Good to see Brian Kelly also getting a couple of decent scores lately, but I don't think many have him. Damien Cook was the great option this week at 63 in his 80 minutes. Obviously a try assist, a couple of line break assists, no real negatives there for him. Was awesome. Burns and Mansell both getting doubles. Yeah, if you want to be in this back line, don't you? Plenty happens well for you. Corey Thompson just doing his thing. Another 3 line breaks in a team that got smashed. He's so good. I really love watching him as a player. Reynolds with a lower game, didn't have to do too much. Did get a try, 6 goals, but yeah, didn't have to kick as much in general play as they were, running the ball a lot more and the like. And then Murray, so we get 41 out of him. No attacking stats this week, so he scored a try each of the last sort of 3 to 4 weeks, and this time didn't get that. But really happy with the minutes. Just one of those games where nothing went too right. He had -8, so. Yeah, one of those ones. Unfortunately, if you brought him in this week, you only get the 41. But if you've had him for the last period, then he's done really well for you. Peachy with 40 in his 35 minutes, so he's very, very busy when he came on. Don't think many have him now. Toby Sexton with 40 in his time on the park. So 1 try saver. Just not really much going on. Obviously, they were getting beat pretty hard. So for him to get 40 and another 52K gain, 273 in total now, which is awesome if you own him. But again, you're probably not trading him out and utilizing that price rise. So think about that. Remember, guys, heading into next year is that back end of the year. We don't need too many of the cash cows. Yes, it could be good to find someone like Sexton who you bring in as a cash out and can play and score pretty well for you, but you're not going to trade him out and utilize that cash. So cash cows are really important at the start of the year and not as important at the end. For Feeder, what a game that was for him. 26 points in his 56. Did get a line break in there, but yeah, just nothing going on. One tackle break, 77 meters, just a bit of a nothing game for Fafita, which is crazy to think that your guy that's averaging over 70 all year can lob out a 26 just for the fun of it. I understand he's had a few 40 games, but yeah, the 26 is a weird one in there. And then Brimson with 19, so it was a soft game for him, unfortunately. In terms of anyone else, no one really to talk about. Paddy Herbert coming off a couple of good games, gets a -2, but again, no one would have him. Greg Marzou, if you're playing him still, only getting a 15, so that wasn't too great, but to be expected against a red-hot South side. So there you go, guys. That's the 4 games to start your week. I hope you got a lot out of that and learnt something. That's the goal with all these videos, is that you learn something. And we'll come back for the last 4 games where the rest of the carnage happened. But I think the most important thing for this week, guys, just to follow on NRL Physio, look at the team list, make sure you're following along with what's happening with all the injuries and suspensions, and try and, if you have any trades left, to try and trade out the ones that are out for the year only. There's a couple of guys in there that might be a little bit more expensive, but they will come back and play one game for you, like a Crichton or a Taumalolo or something like that. It's going to be really important because I can imagine there's only going to be more suspensions, more injuries in the next week or two. And if you could be sitting there with like 12 or 13 playing. So if you have any trades left, like the People Squad, you're going to be in great shape going forward. But yeah, I hope you enjoy that, guys. We'll catch you when we analyze the next 4 games. See you later.